Welcome to the Saratoga podcast. Happy Wednesday, Dan.
Robin, it is a happy Wednesday. It's going to get to 60 plus degrees.
Whoop, whoop. I brought the weather from San Francisco right back with me.
I've never been to San Francisco, but I thought it was always kind of like cloudy and cold there.
So apparently it allegedly is, but my brother lives in San Francisco, and every time I go visit, it's like absolutely gorgeous. And that's where I was this past week. And every day was like 65 and bright sunshine, and it was beautiful. And I just love San Francisco as a city. So I had a fabulous time. Although I missed you guys, I caught like some of the podcasts on the airplane, and I was like commenting frantically. It was so hard to watch from afar, but you guys did an awesome job. And I can't believe we're on our 81st episode. It's like wild.
Exactly. When I saw 80 last week and 81, we're going to be closing on 100. Are we going to do something fun for number 100?
Yeah, we have to do. I feel like we should do a live one like outside somewhere. Like cool. We got to do something cool for our 100th.
At a bar.
Yes, at a bar. I like that idea. Maybe with drinking involved. I like that idea a lot. So Adam isn't here today. He has a busy work day, so he is off today. But you and I are here holding down the fort. And one of the things I know we wanted to talk about before we are joined by Commissioner Jason Golub is that there's a lot of business news happening. And I wanted to talk about the businesses opening first. First, we have the Bunker opening really soon, which is really exciting. The Bunker, for those who don't know, is opening right on the corner of Broadway across from Congress Park. It was a space that was previously Talbot's, and then it was a gym, and then it sat vacant for a really long time, which was tough because it's right at the entrance of Broadway.
Yes.
And now it's been taken over by the Bunker, which also has a business in Clifton Park. And it's basically like a restaurant / indoor golf experience. And so I know
virtual golf, right, Robin?
Yeah, yes, virtual golf. And so I know in my family, we're all golfers. And so my kids and I are all so excited about it opening.
I'm excited by it too. It looks like it fits Saratoga perfectly, right? How they have so many in the capital region and didn't get to Saratoga yet, I don't know. Probably prices, right? Real estate prices. But they've got a prominent location. You're right, 321 Broadway, the Congress Park Center. That's the big building with a clock on top. Sometimes the clock isn't working, if I recall. But so that is great to have a prominent business and a draw to itself, right? It's Saratoga's a draw, but there's going to be a draw for that play as well. I'll check it out. I'm not much of a golfer these days. I got tired slicing it into the woods, so I sort of gave the sport up. But virtual golf with beer, who's to argue?
Exactly. And it looks like they just dumped a ton of money into it. I mean, the fit up just looks pretty incredible. So I'm really excited to check it out. And then another one that is like so exciting, and it's basically right across the street from where I live, is the Saratoga Joinery. And maybe, Dan, you might be able to describe this better, but it's essentially this it used to be where the Children's Museum is on Caroline Street. So it's a really big building. And it's been turned into essentially like a community workshop that focuses on woodworking. And they've got all these incredible tools and machines for woodworking, and they're going to be doing classes and just projects aimed at kids and up. And I wish I was describing it better, but it is I think one of the most incredible contributions to our community in terms of what it offers that I've seen in a really long time. I don't know if you've checked it out at all, but it looks, again, unbelievable.
I just know what I've read from it. And you're right. I agree I'm not sure if I can give anyone too many specifics, but I'm really excited about it. It's like something that you would see in Troy, right? Troy's a cool, gritty city that has some neat things. And they had a place there. This was at the Center of Gravity or something. Did Michelle Madigan have something to do with a place down there? And it was a kind of like an inventor's workshop down in Troy. More than that, it was super neat. And I'm hoping this place has some of that going on. I don't know that it does, but I bet it does from everything I've heard. And just to be able to do something on a rainy Saturday with my daughters that's constructive I think and to build knowledge and build and work on creativity and things like that. And I don't even know much about it, but I'm darn excited by it. And look at that, right across the street from you, Robin.
I know. And it kind of seems like it kind of seems like something you would want to see like in our high school. You know what I mean? But we don't have it in our high school, and that's the way it is. But now we have it here on Caroline Street. And again, I just want to point out the investment that has been put into this building. I mean, the building itself was, really expensive. It's huge. It's at least 7,000 or 8,000 square feet. And then the fit up and the machinery and all that was put into it to create this space for woodworking, just from what I've seen walking by, has been absolutely breathtaking. And the man who owns it has been so incredible to the neighbors, including myself, just keeping us apprised of what he was doing and what the purpose was, and really making sure the neighborhood was on board in a way that I've never had any other business do. And so he's really ingratiated himself with the neighborhood, which has been lovely. And so their grand opening is this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And so if you go to the Saratoga Joinery on social media or online, you can register and go to the grand opening and check it out for free, obviously. And so that's something that I would point people to. And then left turn, Orange Theory, which some people know about. It's a workout place. Orange Theory, it's actually like a workout chain. It's a national franchise. That is opening, I believe, also this weekend at the Wilton Mall. It's a really fantastic workout. It's like a circuit training. You go from like rowing machines to treadmills, and like it's great. It's a great workout. I plan on going. That opens this weekend. And then I don't know if you plan on going to that, by the way.
Wait, Robin, can I interrupt you?
Yeah, you can.
Can I interrupt you for a second? Because let's stay at the Wilton Mall for a second, because
No.
the Wilton Mall Theaters are reopening.
Oh, that's right.
And it's today, and they have $3 specials with the proceeds going to the Wilton Food Pantry. And I wrote a list out of, I think it's an all-inclusive list here. I hope I don't miss one. But they're going to be showing a number of movies today, some classic, some more current. A League of Their Own, Singing in the Rain.
Wait, A League of Their Own?
What?
A League of Their Own?
Yeah.
That is like the best movie ever. I'm sorry. A League of Their Own is like the best.
Filmed upstate, right near Cooperstown, I believe.
Really?
Yeah. Oppenheimer, Barbie from some more current ones, Elvis, Lego Movie, Jurassic Park on the big screen. They have 2 showings today. I don't know what times, but they're just $3. Again, proceeds going to the Wilton Food Pantry. So suddenly we've got some movie competition in this town, right? They cross town. We got the one in the suburbs and the one downtown. And the Wilton Mall one is they're sort of poking the one downtown here, saying, "Hey, we got parking." They don't. Kind of like, "Oh, you got to park downtown. That's going to be a problem."
I don't know if I want to be involved in that feud.
Well, they're poking. I'm kind of surprised. You don't see that too often.
I know. That's a little risque for a little town.
Sorry, Robin. You had a flow going there, and I interrupted because you were at the Wilton Mall, and I wanted to continue on the Wilton Mall.
No, that's cool. That's cool. I don't mind if you interrupt my flow. The only last thing I was going to point out, and this is, I know, like a little contro for some people, but Starbucks is also opening soon on Broadway. And I know we have Uncommon Grounds and we have other coffee places on Broadway, but I got to say, if you go into Uncommon Grounds, I love it there. I will always support them. The lines are usually like 10,000 people long. And so I think having Starbucks open is going to be kind of exciting for some of us. Yeah.
I wasn't with you until I was downtown about 3 Saturdays ago. And the trouble with Uncommon Grounds is it's about as loud as a football game sometimes.
Yeah.
And if you really want a little bit more privacy, and so the go-to place after that was Coffee Traders. Well, guess what? They're gone. A shout out to the Broadway Grind, which is a good place. For whatever reason, that didn't work for me. And for once, I said, God, I wish Starbucks was open, because Spot Coffee is really comfortable off Broadway there near my office, a Buffalo company.
Totally
so
great.
I'm partial to that. But Uncommon Grounds is great. There's times when I absolutely want Uncommon Grounds, but there's times when it just won't work. So you're right, Robin. For you people that like Starbucks, and it's part, it employs people, part of the community. I'm not one that's against chains.
I totally agree. And I have one last business, and then I want to join, and then we're also going to be joined by Commissioner Golub, who's here. But I have one last one, which is Mittlers, which is opening up in the old Four Seasons space on Phyla. And I'm so excited about Mittlers, and I'm hoping to talk to Steve Mittler in the next couple of weeks when we have more of kind of a firm opening date. But the thing that I'm so excited about with Mittlers is that it's going to be kind of a combination of a restaurant, but also kind of a market corner store type feel. And as a New Yorker, a Manhattanite, there's nothing I love more than like a market corner store type business. I just like love it. I crave it. And so I'm so excited to hear more about Mittlers, and I'm so excited to see him open.
He's putting his heart and soul and probably every last dime into that place. Holy cow, you walk in there and talk to him, he will drop what he's doing, and he's so excited to show you his plans and where he's going. It's infectious.
I know. So that's like half a dozen new businesses opening in the next couple of weeks, which makes
I've got a couple more. We can pick it up after we speak.
Yeah, let's pick it up after. Let's pick it up right after, because I want to bring in Commissioner Jason Golub. Here he is. Hey, Commissioner Golub, how are you?
Hey guys, how are you?
Hey, welcome back. Listen, you're becoming like a regular guest now on the Saratoga podcast.
I don't know about that. Let's not get crazy.
We're making up for lost time.
And I will tell you to try Walt Cafe, the cafe that's at the Wilton Brewery.
Yeah.
Like it's a great place to sit and have a meeting and have a coffee.
Thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. I go there with actually my daughter all the time, and we love it. We love it. Yeah, I don't think
the best egg sandwiches they're 9 miles east. Their egg sandwiches make me talk to myself. They're so damn good.
Very good. I agree. I don't talk to myself more than I normally do, but I do like those sandwiches.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people know that, actually. Just so for clarification, so Walt Whitman, the first floor of Walt Whitman is like a cafe with like tea, coffee, smoothies. They have like homemade Pop-Tarts. They have egg sandwiches, and it's a whole cafe space, and it's like amazing. So yes, total plug for them. Thank you.
And a shout out to their Detroit style pizza on the other side of
and downstairs you can get like the pizza, the full menu. So anyway, shifting gears. We're so happy to have you on, and we have so many things we want to talk to you about. The first thing being, you have just been known for being such a responsive, rational, and so good at listening to the public and taking in feedback from the public about things you've been proposing to the community. And one of those things has been the seasonal paid parking plan. So I just wanted to go over some of the changes you have made to the paid parking plan. If you could kind of articulate some of those for our viewers.
Sure. So, I think essentially where we land, let me back up. 3 months ago, 6 months ago, whenever we started, we baked the plan about 70% of the way. And then we started to have these meetings with constituents, with local businesses, with the DBA, special assessment, to get their input on, does this make sense? Is this directionally correct? And then iterate based on that. So we didn't, have 100% baked and then realize, we're totally going sideways. Where we've landed is essentially the end result of that process, which is very much a phase one of a paid parking program. It is just the garages and the surface lots to start. So downtown garages and surface lots. Those will have those parking kiosks where, you basically go up to them and you pay for amount of time, and you can get an update on your phone that says you have 5 minutes left and you can put more money on it. Very user-friendly. It'll be, throughout the garage. And those will be for visitors. Residents and business employees of Saratoga Springs will be able to park in the garages for free. So they register, they'll be registered through the system, and then they can park in the garages as they would now. That was a big sticking point for a lot of people, wanting access to the garages. And we heard that. The good news about that is when we first ran our financial projections, we used a very low utilization rate. We used about a 30% utilization rate to get our numbers of how much money, how much revenue we would make. So that really, in some ways, it basically says 7 out of 10 spots will be free. So our projections should still be accurate. We should still be in that same ballpark revenue-wise, which is the good news. And then the second piece is the streets will remain as is. So originally the streets were going to be permit parking only. The streets will now be free and available to residents, tourists, business owners, whomever. There may be a world where in version 2.0, we start to expand and we do something with the streets. But for right now, I think this is where the broad population got comfortable and is comfortable with this program. And so we're happy with that as a first step.
Awesome. I have lots of questions, but Dan, do you have questions you want to start with?
Let me, geez, I hate to start off on a negative note, but there's strong, vehement opposition to this, almost in a way unprecedented. We've got the postcard in the mail and John Nemjo of Saratoga Outdoors seems to be leading this. And I did talk to him earlier today, and he was vehement. I couldn't write quick enough for the points he said. One of the so you've got opposition to this, strong, at least from my view, strong opposition, a petition and so forth. What you've already scaled it, you've made some adjustments, I assume, and partially to perhaps the opposition. I'll let you say that. And I'm just going to give a quote here. It's one of my favorite quotes, and it's from Winston Churchill. It's probably what you're grappling with. And he once said, "You lead people where they need to go, not where they want to go."
Right.
And so I'm sorry?
It's a great quote.
Yeah, it is. And it applies here, right? It applies to a lot of things you do. You got to be a leader. Some of what you're going to do is going to be painful, and large groups are going to be against that. How do you balance that? If you could talk about the opposition in general about this, as well as how do you balance being a leader and not shoving things down people's throats?
Yeah, I mean, I think listening helps. I think iterating helps. I think if you're changing something, someone is always going to be opposed to it. I think that's the reality. Is you're never going to do something that moves the ball in a direction and have every single person say, "I love that idea." That is not realistic, and I actually don't think that's really leading. I think to your point, Winston Churchill is right. I think that sometimes you have to lead where people need to go, not necessarily where they want to go, and people don't always love change. And I think, I think perhaps you may have overstated the level of opposition. I think the person you identified is in fact opposed to it, but we sat down with him, and a lot of the changes that happened are reflective of that meeting with him. And I guess the postcard he sent out came out before we made those changes. And so they don't even reflect the reality of the situation. That being said, I have not heard of a broad opposition beyond him, certainly not from the business community. I mean, I know he has a sign in front of his door. I don't see a lot of other signs, but people aren't shy when they oppose things. I mean, we saw short-term rentals. I mean, people come out in droves when they're against something. I mean, they don't secret. So I don't know that I agree with your assessment that people are broadly opposed to it. I think people felt like that it needed to be iterated on, and they voiced that, and we heard it, and we did. That being said, I don't think we're ever going to get something where we have unanimity and everyone is loving it. I don't think that's not the goal.
I just wanted to observe something. Actually, I have, the only thing that I personally have experienced is that I've seen these mailers come through, but it's been very kind of like nebulous. Like, I don't know who they've been coming from, and I haven't seen like a group materialize or like more than one person who's been vocal about it. So I don't really know who's behind any kind of opposition. So I would actually kind of disagree as well that there's like a large group that's opposing this plan. It seems to me like there's maybe a very small group that's sending out mailers or whatnot, but maybe it seems larger than it is, but I don't quite think that characterization was necessarily fair as far as I've observed as well. And it seems to me that this compromise that you've just come out with addresses like the majority of concerns that people have.
Right. And look, the other thing you have to remember is, and someone asked me this morning, what is the goal of this project? And I said, and I've said this before, the needs of our city are changing. The needs of public works, the needs of the city broadly, whether it's how do we handle the homeless situation? How do we pay for the third fire station? We're growing as a city, and that takes new revenue sources unless we want to keep raising taxes, and I don't think we do. And so just the reality of how our city is evolving requires us to be more creative with how we generate revenue to address the exact problems that people want us to address. And so I would caution people when they say, oh, you're charging visitors $2. Well, yes, the garages are being subsidized right now by tax dollars. So instead of subsidizing by more tax dollars and not solving the problems, like, this is the alternative. And so I think that there is, looking at the big picture of why we're doing this versus you're just changing something that's not broken. Why would you do that? Well, because our city is not the small town it was 10 years ago.
I guess that was my other question, was that initially, like when our council way back when was looking at this issue of potentially introducing paid parking, the real thrust of it was that we wanted to put the money, the revenue that it would generate towards more policing of the Woodlawn parking lot, because that was where we were seeing so much crime, so much petty crime, vandalism, and so forth. So is that still part of where some of this revenue is going to be headed?
Right. So that you basically highlighted where a lot of the revenue, a lot of the budget is going right now. So I have more men going and working on the garages than I would like. They spend a lot of time, a lot of resources, a lot of money, and it's a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. They're cleaning up, piss and poop and stuff, and it's dangerous. Right. And so that's not how I would allocate my resources. Same with police. Police resources allocated to policing a garage is probably not the best use of our resources. And yet here we are. That is where the money in our budget is going now. So instead of that money going to that and policing the garages more, we're going to upgrade security. We're going to have attendants on site. We're going to have more cameras, better lighting. It is going to be a more secure, safe environment for everyone who uses it. But it's also going to deter people from using it as a homeless shelter, which is not a problem. You see it like the city center garage, because they have 24-hour security. It's well lit. It's clean. And so we would actually like to solve the problem in part in that garage, not just get more money to keep, putting a Band-Aid on the problem. And again, some of that revenue will go to solving the problem more broadly, not just in the garages.
Well, and we had also, sorry, Dan, real quick, just one more kind of comment on this. And this is probably not something that a lot of people are aware of unless they're a neighbor of the Woodlawn Garage. We had also seen just repeated issues with late night, basically parties on the top deck of the Woodlawn Garage, at 2, 3, 4 in the morning. People would be drag racing. They'd be having parties because there was no, barrier to entry to getting into the garage. And so just the simple act of having to pay and having a thing go up and down or having an attendant there, we thought we'd get rid of that problem entirely. And the problem was for us, once the police were dispatched to kind of break up those parties, that drag racing that was happening up there, because they were on the top level, they could see the police coming. So the second they saw the police coming from down below, they could disperse and all get out of there before the police got up there. And so it was the easiest place to party and do, just generally bad stuff that would wake up all the neighbors around the garage, especially on Division Street. And so I just think that putting paid parking, especially in that garage, is going to solve so many of the issues that neighborhood was having. And so
it isn't just keeping neighbors awake. It is also a safety issue. I mean, you have high schoolers up there getting drunk and throwing things on top. It's only a matter of time before someone got really hurt. And so again, putting more structure around the structure requires more money. And I think it will lead to a safer environment for everyone.
I do think that there's always a concern that it's going to be a slippery slope, that this is where we start. And 3 years from now, there's going to be meters on Broadway. So, but I hope that people just trust the long game. And, if 2 years from now or 4 years from now, there's a different person sitting in your seat and they propose that, we know how well Saratoga mobilizes to oppose something, and then they can mobilize and oppose.
Yes, we saw that with leaves. You want to talk about people being very, very opposed to something? We can talk about leaves.
Or we can talk about short-term rentals, which I do want to talk about in a minute.
It is not a secret when they're very opposed to something.
Yes.
at least from my perspective, I don't see the word. I mean, meters are antiquated to begin with, but also it just DPW doesn't control the streets. It's a much larger process. You have to go through the state. It isn't, and then there's the cost benefit isn't there.
Yeah.
Seasonally, from Memorial Day to Labor Day, there is a benefit from a revenue perspective. But when we have lower numbers in the off season, the cost of running the program is actually significant enough that you'd actually not make money by having it in the off season.
Anyway, Dan, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I know you had other questions.
No problem. And God, I'm sorry if I'm the one poking here, but my notes say there's a concern. Obviously, John Nemjo was the most outspoken, but there seem to be more people maybe not wanting to put their name out there. Some business owners concerned that this will affect their traffic. If somebody from Wilton can't come in, or Albany, or the tourists have to pay, they'll come less often, and so forth. What is your response to that? If the concern that it will reduce traffic in our downtown stores?
So, I mean, I don't think that is a factually based concern. I think that goes into the category of like urban legend fear mongering. I have not seen a single piece of evidence that suggests that has happened anywhere in America, that a city has instituted paid parking or had paid parking and it tanked their local economy. So if you have that, I would love to see it. As you can imagine, every city we looked at for comparison has paid parking, and their economies are thriving. It's something different, and so people fear change, and sometimes fearing change leads this is going to cause this. Okay, what makes you think this? Well, I just think that. Okay, why? Like, and when you unpack it, you don't typically, at least with that particular concern, I haven't gotten a concrete, here is evidence to suggest this is true, versus this is just what I'm fearful of. And I think there's a key distinction there. It's okay to be fearful, but if there isn't actually any facts to support it, then it's really hard to transact on. Then it's really hard for me to be like, okay. But the one thing I will say is, in response to that, we did make street parking now available for everybody. So if they're worried that people from Wilton aren't going to find parking, all the streets are available for people from Wilton. All the streets are available from people from Albany. So there's 1,800 spaces and again, we're just talking about the summer months. The rest of the year, everything is free.
Yeah.
So I do think that they're overstating the impact because they're fearful of change, and I get it, but I'm not gonna. It's not that I'm not going to entertain that. It's so that I can't over-index on it because there's not data points for me to index on it.
So
but you're not going as far as saying it's irrational, right? It feels like if you have a business downtown, you're paying rent. It's a rational fear, right? Would that be fair? Even if it's not fact supported, as you say, I don't know if I agree with that, but you can understand why a business owner trying to pay staff rent and so forth could be worried about.
Wait, can I interject for a sec?
Sure.
I'm just going to say that if you're a downtown business owner, you don't want any barriers for anyone to shop in your store ever, right? And so in a perfect world, you could park on like the freaking sidewalk, but everything is anecdotal at this point. And so just to play a little good cop, bad cop here, every single time I park downtown, and even though I live downtown, I often park downtown. Every single time I park on the street, every single time. I never park in the garages or on the flat lots ever. So, and I always shop. I'm always shopping, popping in for a coffee, popping into a boutique, whatever. So if we're going to talk in with anecdotal evidence, you know what I mean? Here's someone who's constantly downtown and has never had to park in a garage or in a flat lot. And so I would say to the businesses, like, I understand their concerns completely. But for me, what would be really interesting is if they actually surveyed their customers over the period of 2 or 3 months to find out where they were parking, where they were coming from and where they were parking. If they wanted to actually present, more than anecdotal evidence to say there was a legit problem. But I think probably the best thing to do in this situation is to go through a season and see how it goes and then report back. Because based on these new changes, I can't imagine there's going to be a significant impact from Memorial Day to Labor Day from people coming in from outside of Saratoga Springs who can't find street parking and aren't willing to pay the $2 to park in a garage or a flat lot. Like, that just doesn't make logical sense to me.
And Dan, the other thing I will say, you know what is a deterrent to people coming from Wilton and Albany and anywhere else?
I think I know where you're going.
Go ahead. You want to say it?
Go for it.
Any problems within the parking garages that you mentioned earlier.
You hit it, right? That is more of a, me coming and parking in a garage with my family and being accosted by a homeless person is going to deter me a lot more than paying $2 to park.
Yep, walking down a staircase that smells like feces and urine.
What you're saying is fair. Sorry, Robin. Yeah. What you're saying is fair. I'm just there do seem to be two legitimate sides of the story. If people are running a business, I feel for that. I run a business. At the end of the month, it's sometimes tough. Automatically, you have very valid points in return that you've already scaled it back somewhat. You don't see the evidence. I get that, but I got to get some credibility to these business owners that are the core of our downtown.
Do you think, if there was evidence, so we looked at a bunch of different cities, if there was evidence to suggest that charging people for parking who are visiting our city would undermine the economy, do you think we would see that in other cities who charge for parking?
If your research was perfect and there weren't any, other issues that you'd missed or something, right? Your research is not perfect. You don't know. Saratoga is a unique place.
This wouldn't be like you would see it pretty quickly if causing paid parking undermined economies. You would see it across cities. Nearly every other city has paid parking, and I've never seen anyone correlate the fact of that with their economy somehow sinking.
I think
certainly downtowns over the history of this country have suffered, right? And I realize that's different than what we're talking about now, but certainly there was a concern when people moved to the suburbs. That's not I realize Saratoga is unique. These other downtowns are unique. But we certainly have a history of this country. That's the shopping malls. Granted, it's gone full circle, but there was 40, 50, 60 years where the shopping mall was king and the downtowns were dying. So there is some evidence there, at least historically, maybe not exactly to Saratoga. I'm just saying there's two sides of the story. What I'm hearing is, no, it's only one-sided.
No. I think what I would say is it an emotional reaction, which makes sense to me, versus a factual reaction, which undermines what we're doing. And I agree that if I owned a business, I would be concerned about anything that might undermine my ability to succeed. Totally agree with that. What I'm asking is if there's evidence to suggest that is true.
But I also think the really important difference here is that we're not talking about across the board paid parking 365 days a year, 24/7. We're talking about just in garages and the lots, May through September. And we're still talking about 1,800 street spots that are, we're going to stay as is. So I think that it's a really big difference from just saying that we're going downtown paid parking.
And the other thing I have to highlight is the number of business owners and leaders who actually built the downtown who are supportive is quite high.
Yeah.
And these are the people like the Tom Ruhans of the world. These are the people who would raise their hand and say, you are out of your mind to do this. And most of them say, we needed to do this a long time ago.
I'm afraid, but I have to check in with the one Joe Dalton and see what he has to say.
Hey, listen, Robin, we wanted to talk to the commissioner about another important thing. I don't want to get us off this. Thank you for talking to us, but this well, that wasn't even what I was talking about. But so we're gonna. I hope you got a few minutes.
Which one did you want to talk about? I was going to ask about short-term rentals. What did you want to talk about?
Yeah, you and I talked about his comments at the city council meeting.
Oh yeah,
regarding
can we do rentals real quick.
Yeah. We still should talk about short-term rentals as well, but I just want to make sure we get to that other issue.
Yes, totally. So, real quick, I would love your thoughts, Commissioner Golub, on what your take is on the community feedback about the short-term rental regulation being proposed, and kind of if you see kind of like a middle ground and what that might look like.
Sure. So obviously the short-term rentals is not my piece of legislation that I'm pushing forward. So my comments for what they're worth. Commissioner Moran is much more in the details than I am. I mean, obviously I've seen a lot of pushback from the community broadly about the direction, and some of that is just the fee, which I think that there's probably room for improvement on. Some of them are concerned about the specific, limitations of how often they can rent. And some of them are concerned about the goal. I mean, if you look at like New York City, who banned Airbnbs, there's been no reduction in the rental market. It's just as expensive, and all of those Airbnbs moved to New Jersey and created, tourism and economy for New Jersey. And so there is that question as well. And so I think, and at the same time, the state is looking at this, and are we getting in front of state regulation that's going to force us to then change it in a year because we went first? Look at someone like Lake George that did it 5 years ago, and they've actually amended their regulations every single year since. And so I see both sides, because I see facts that are telling me there is some concern here. That being said, I think Commissioner Moran is hearing the concerns, and I think he is amenable to, iterating and moving toward a place that makes people happier with where we land. From my perspective, I think there's real value in having everyone registered and having that registry. And if that was the entire phase one in year one, I think that in some ways that would be an admirable goal, which would then give more time to see where the landscape is going in terms of regulation. And you'd also see what the size of the problem is. And I think he is doing that, but I might take that as a first swipe. I might also, and I've told Commissioner Moran this just so we're clear, in terms of the fee structure, I would probably focus more on the commercial entities and charge the commercial entities who aren't residents of our city, charge them $1,000. They don't live here, they have 20 Airbnbs, or they run a hotel, they don't care. So you can raise the revenue you need to run your program off the back of commercial entities, and then charge the residents $50. And you still get the same revenue. You just change the wide end of the funnel revenue model is different than charging everyone. So to me, I think that there's room for iteration that will still get him to the same place, but be more palatable for the residents.
Do you think, it seems to me that given we're almost halfway through March and people are looking, there's a ton of people Airbnb, for example, for the Belmont, for Memorial Day. Do you think this seems like a rush to do for this season?
I don't think it's going to go into effect for this season. I think it's kind of like the get out of jail free card, so to speak. I think everyone can still rent all this summer. I think the goal is to get people registered by the end of the summer, and then it takes effect after the summer. I think if he was going to try and get this stood up in totality by the Belmont, that would be crazy. Yeah. I don't think that's the goal.
All right.
I have a question, a quick one, back to parking, but it relates to this. Could you explain, and if you don't know on this issue, because it's not yours, I get it, the parking issue, where that will go? Will it be more hearings? Do you plan to have a vote within a month? As well as what you know about short-term rentals, where will that go with hearings? And again, acknowledging you may not have such a grip on that issue.
So the next meeting, next city council meeting this next Tuesday, I'll announce a public hearing. It will be the first meeting of April. And we will bring a resolution that will either allow or not allow paid parking in the garages. Because we're not doing permit parking on the streets, we don't actually need to go through the state. It is a much more streamlined process to just do the garages. So all we need is a city resolution to get to move forward. And so we'll do that the first meeting of April after we have the public hearing, and either we'll move forward or we won't.
So I'm sorry, there'll be a hearing on the parking plan at the next council meeting?
At the first meeting of April.
Okay, sorry. Okay.
He'll announce it at the next council
meeting. Yes.
Okay.
Great, thank you. And do you wish to defer to Commissioner Moran, or do you know where short-term rentals is going to be?
I don't know. My sense is there'll be another public hearing when he brings around the next iteration of the regulations, and I don't know when that will be. My sense is it will probably be in April.
So there will be a new revised version of, just like you did with parking.
Yeah.
Get a new revised version of short-term rentals.
I believe yes. I don't want to speak for the commissioner, but I believe there will be.
Okay, great. Thank you for updating us on that.
Yeah, of course.
Awesome. Okay, our last question, and you've been such a trooper to go over all these subjects with us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
The last question we had for you, at the last city council meeting, there were a lot of members of BLM there who were expressing their frustration over, items in the Attorney General report. And one of the comments you made was something to the effect of, you didn't think that coming to city council meetings twice a month to articulate some of these frustrations was the most productive way to move things forward. And so my question for you was, what would you like to see to address the issues that they have and address them in a productive way that actually does move things forward? How would you like to see that happen, ideally?
Sure. So, look, I think there is absolutely a place for coming to the meeting and voicing concern and voicing displeasure with how things have gone. I think that is that is government, that is free speech.
Totally.
That being said, I think that paired with something else might be more productive and lead to less of the need to say, why aren't we making progress on these things? Why aren't you, our city government, doing these things? And that's more along the lines of partnership around some of these critical issues. And so whether it's the 50 points or whether it's the Attorney General's report, I would like us to identify collectively whatever the path forward is for, in say 6-month increments, and say, these are the 10 things we're going to work on. This is the timeline. This is the plan for transparency. Every city council meeting, we are going to give an update on where we are in these points. We are going to say, this is what we've done. This is what we've not done. This is where we made no progress. So there is concrete conversations going on as opposed to abstract conversations. And I think that's a critical difference. And then what I would like to see is that members of BLM are part of those conversations around those issues, not every other Tuesday, but in my office, in the commissioner's office of public works, of public safety, the mayor, so that, because there is a level of distrust, right or wrong. And so to me, if you distrust the people that are making the decisions on the path forward, then you need to be in the room.
Yeah.
And you need to give us the perspective that you have, which will be different than John Safford's perspective. And it's a valuable perspective, but it's not one that everyone is going to have. And so to me, the real value is, yes, you highlighted these issues. Yes, they come out in this report. What are we doing now together to move the ball forward collectively? And that's where I think, and that's everyone's responsibility. That is not, to be clear, that is not BLM's responsibility. That is my responsibility to call them. That is their responsibility to show up at my door, just like the short-term rental people do. They are the most annoying people ever. They show up at my door, they call me, they're on city hall steps, but they come with solutions as well. And so I think that there is that middle ground for let's work together to move the ball forward. And I think that's where we've had, over the past few years, difficulty finding our footing.
Can I just tell you something that makes me angry? Just straight angry.
Sure.
So I was on the city council when you came up with the 50-point plan as one of the co-chairs of the police collaborative.
The police are fantastic.
Thank you. Those are the words I'm looking for. So we passed those points, and I had on my agenda every other Tuesday an update as to where we were on those 50 points. I had a spreadsheet. It was on the webpage, on the city webpage, so people could see it. I had where we were, if there was a charter issue, if there was a budget issue, what the expected timeline was, if it was completed. So it was transparent. People could see it. They could see where we were. I kept people updated, and I passed that off to Commissioner Montenegro. And I just don't understand. It is a simple, I'm gonna curse people. It's a simple fucking thing, those 50 points. Yes, some of them are complex, but checking them off a list and getting them done should not have been this complicated a thing. It has been years now, and I do not understand why they have not been completed. And I also do not understand why we would have to pay an outside company to come in and tell us if we've done them. It makes me feel like we are completely dysfunctional in City Hall. And especially with you sitting on the city council, having drafted those 50 points yourself, how is it possible that we can't on our own determine where we are if we've completed them? And if we haven't completed them, get to it already.
Well, I mean, now you've voiced the frustration that BLM is voicing every other Tuesday.
Yeah, sorry.
I mean, you've answered your own, and now you understand why they're coming to the meeting and pissed.
It just seems crazy.
Like that's. But I would also say when you did that, and I would push you on this, it probably wasn't done collaboratively with activists. They didn't have a seat at the table, and I think that because there's a trust gap. And this is why there's a trust gap, because Jim sat on his hands for 2 years and didn't move the ball forward. The trust gap, the only way to me that you fix the trust gap is to have them as participants in the process, not just recipients of the output. You can't just show them the spreadsheet and say, look, we did it. Well, I don't know that that's going to get it.
Yeah. And at the time, and you know this, they weren't going to sit at the table with me. I was not going to be someone who they were going to sit down with.
That's the challenge. It is the challenge to this day, is everyone getting to the table and working together. That is the challenge.
Totally.
There are times when I bristle at things some members of BLM say, for instance, when they accuse Saratoga police of murdering Daryl Mount. But there are times, in order to have credibility, we have to point out when they're right. And when they complained about the 50 points languishing, especially some of which were low-hanging fruit, that was 100% legitimate on their part, and credit to them for bringing it up, because it didn't move until they complained about it. So to their credit,
that's right.
With that, Commissioner, how do, and I say it to them, I as someone in this community, I have to acknowledge when they're right. I have to try to meet them halfway, but they have to meet everybody else halfway as well. And so far, I haven't seen an effort to do that. Maybe they will. I credit you for saying stop. That was the one you stood up and said stop. And I credit you immensely last week. I hope you saw the podcast last week, for being the one to stand up and challenge and come up with a new narrative of, are you kidding me? Every 2 weeks, this is how we're going to solve it. So I credit you to that. But how do we get them to step forward?
There is value. I mean, look, to your point, to you saying, I mean, nothing was moving until they started showing up. And so I get why they show up. Yeah. Now we take the next step.
Yeah.
And that is on us, and it's on them. It's on everyone to come to the table. And if that doesn't happen, we will just keep doing this over and over again every 2 weeks. That's someplace I don't want us to be that way as a community. It is not solving anything. It's not healing for BLM. It's not healing for the community. And I mean, I just can't see the world where 5 years from now, we're still talking about the same thing, that we haven't moved the ball forward. And that's my biggest fear. I'm gonna have some gummies now, because
no, you're good. Listen, we've kept you way past time, and I just appreciate you're going over all of this. And I know this is probably one of the most challenging and nuanced and complex subjects of all. Dan, unless you have any other questions, I think we've gone over as much as we could possibly go over with Commissioner Golub, but we should probably release him from our talons today.
Thank you, Commissioner, for joining us.
Thank you so much.
I figured I was just going to stay for the cheers and jeers. So I mean,
you can. You got to talk about our other stuff too, though.
I'm okay. I don't need to stay for it.
I'll cheer you all day long. Thank you so much, Commissioner.
Dan, talk to more people other than just the one guy who's opposed, because I think you're getting a skewed view.
Well, we actually invited him on next week, by the by. I'm not sure if he can make it. I'm sorry, I missed that.
Not the same person. Yeah.
I'll represent you in that scenario, Commissioner Golub, I promise.
Sit down and talk to Tom Ruhan. Sit down and talk to Sonny. Sit down and talk to these other people who have staked in the city for a long, long time and get their viewpoint.
Yeah, you may not believe this. I don't have a strong opinion either way on this, but I'm playing a bit of devil's advocate there. And he is the guy that just filled my ear for 20 minutes early this morning.
Well, I was vehemently against paid parking, and now I'm a believer. So there you go.
Sweet. Well, thank you. I appreciate the time.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, Dan the man. That was awfully nice of him to go over so much stuff with us. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And the parking thing and the leaf thing for 14 grand a year. Are you
You know,
kidding me?
you guys,
Robin, what were you thinking? Commissioner Golub, what were you thinking? You
it
couldn't,
is
people
such
have
a
asked me to
hard
run.
job.
I'm not doing it ever.
It is literally such a hard job, you guys. You get paid $220 a freaking week. It is brutal. And so, like, people who are willing to step up to the plate and be on the city council here and take all the grief. And not only does, someone like Commissioner Golub like take grief, but he doesn't just sit there and do nothing. He takes on some of the hardest, most controversial issues and really makes progress. And all the while is also out there like creating parks and like all these beautiful places with DPW. And so I just give him a lot of credit and I thank him for coming on our show. And I just think he is a terrific public servant. So cheers. I have so many cheers this week, but a big cheers to Jason. Thank you, Jason. We really appreciate you.
Excellent. Let's pick up where we were just on businesses.
Yeah.
I had a couple extra to add.
Yeah, you had a couple extra. Hold on, let me pull my little do up. Where are you? Do? Here we go. Okay, hit me with your businesses that I did not hit.
Okay, and you wanted to hit this one as well. Franklin Square Market. Wow, big changes, really cool changes. They got a lot going on. They brought in some new partners that it was already on an upward trajectory, but I think it's going at an even steeper rate now with Mark Delos and Julie Delos, the pedigree largely from his own hospitality with some other stops along the way. Mark will be a partner and the culinary director. Julie will be the partner and the director of hospitality and operations. They already got a great team there, and this is going to be awesome. They have so many events coming up this weekend. Cans and Clams Saturday and Sunday, Derby Party in May, Easter, the $2 oyster event they had a couple weeks ago. That's not even touching what's going on there. That is not PDT Market. That is and that's not a shot at PDT Market. It was a different place. This is a place that's got energy, and I like it.
I just have to say, so my kids and I are obsessed with Franklin Square Market, and it's for a couple of reasons. One, I'm just happy to have another neighborhood market back, and they've kind of restructured their pricing. And so just popping in to get the can of tomato sauce or whatever you need is totally reasonable. And I really appreciate that. But they also have specialty items that get me so freaking jazzed. They have pink pineapples. I don't know if you guys have ever had a pink pineapple.
No.
My kids are obsessed with them. If you need your kids to eat more fruit, go get a pink pineapple at Franklin Square Market. They are amazing. And then they also have, if you like hummus, there's this hummus called Holy Hummus that prior to this, I was only able to find at Eataly in the city. And then all of a sudden it showed up in Franklin Square Market and I totally freaked out. But then also the prepared food. So now instead of weighing the prepared food, they do it by the container. So
right.
Medium-sized container is $8.99 and you can fill it up as much as you want. And it's a flat price of $8.99. And so
it's good food too.
So good. And so during the week, my kids love Chinese food. They go out there and they fill it up with Chinese food. On the weekends, my daughter loves wings. They have all these different wings. Yeah. It's such a good deal. It's so good. And then they have
each day has its own theme, right, Robin? Yes, the weekend is a tailgate party. Some days Chinese, Italian, Mexican.
So good. And you guys, by the way, I am not paid by Franklin Square Market. This is just me, Robin, raving. They also have this new candy that I'm totally obsessed with. It's freeze-dried candy by Stella, which is this little girl. I think she's in middle school. It's so delicious. If you like freeze-dried candy, like astronaut ice cream, she freeze-dries all these fun candies. And I just discovered it. I'm also obsessed with it. And then last obsession there, United Soda oh my God, why am I forgetting that? Oh my God, I'm forgetting the word. United Soda. Oh my God, forgetting the word. But basically it's the most delicious soda ever.
Okay.
It's healthy. There's 30 calories in the soda. It's called United States of Soda. And they have all these different flavors and they're beautiful the way they market them. And they're so good. So I have 4 kids. My kids and I are there constantly. It's delicious. We love it. It's become part of our routine. Can't say enough about it.
Disclosure here, they do advertise on Saratoga Report, and I appreciate them for supporting another local business, but I love the place anyway. It's steps from my office. And the fish, I got to mention the fish with Greg that they brought in. You go to certain supermarkets, the mass ones, and the guy was working in produce the day before, and you ask him about the salmon, and he has no clue. He doesn't know salmon from herring. And Greg, there, he's got the fresh fish. He knows where it came from. He knows what it was feeding on. It's just it's wonderful just especially the salmon. I haven't, well, in fairness, I haven't tried the other fish. It looks great, but and in some of the prepared dinners, they have some great meat products there as well.
Yes, Tim Loyola, who's watching, he loves Franklin Square Market. Yay! It also looks like he loves the Bills, so we love
yes,
you.
He
Tim
does. He's a handsome dude. Okay,
so any other businesses you wanted to mention, my friend?
Yes, I concur with you on Mittlers. The Treehouse Brewing on South Broadway, it hasn't really started yet. That place has a cult following, folks. I talk to people that go to their New England locations, mostly in Massachusetts, and their eyes light up. They are so thrilled that there's one coming to Saratoga. I guess they have trails, and they always attach it to like parks and trails, which they apparently are doing here because it abuts the state parkland. And so it's not just sit there and drink beer. Apparently you can walk out back and walk down trails and things like that. I'm telling you, folks, the place has a cult following. I haven't even tried it yet, and I think I'm going to be a cult follower of that place. Also on Broadway, a new face on Broadway, Sara's Kitchen.
Oh my God, I forgot. Yes.
Yes, in the old Whole Harvest location. Before that, it was Plum Dandy years back, right? And,
wait, I'm so excited. So by the way, Whole Harvest went to the mall. They kind of like did a switcheroo. Whole Harvest went to the mall, and then Sara's Kitchen came to Broadway. Sara's Kitchen is like Middle Eastern food, which I'm so pumped about because I feel like that really filled a void. Like we didn't have Middle Eastern food that I'm aware of. And so I'm so excited for like falafel and tahini and grape leaves and all that like yummy stuff.
Tabbouleh. I hope they have tabbouleh. That's my favorite.
I'm sure they do.
I worked for a Lebanese man in the mid 80s, Halim Habib in Buffalo. He had a hotel restaurant. He was 400 pounds. I was terrified of the man, but it introduced me to some Middle Eastern food that I might normally wouldn't have tried on my own. And I'm a fan to this day. So good luck to her. Good luck to Whole Harvest out at the mall.
Yeah,
that is pretty neat. And there's folks there. If we're missing some, and I know we are, email us, Robin, our email that they can alert us. And we'll mention
our email is info@thesaratogapodcast.com. So that's info@thesaratogapodcast.com. I will put it up in a little banner. Email us any old time. And we are going to have some of these new business owners on in the next couple episodes to talk with a little more detail about some of the businesses they're opening and what they have to offer. Info@the-Saratoga. Sorry, I have a hard time typing and talking at the same time.
We should make that a regular feature.
I agree. Oh my God, I didn't spell it right. Hold on. Never mind. Sorry.
The Saratoga?
I know. Sorry. It's the typing and talking at the same time. There we go. info@thesaratogapodcast.com. Yes. Okay. Email us anytime. Or if you want to see us talk about a different subject or, a business that's opening, just let us know. We'd love to hear from you. I also have our call-in feature that I just need to get back up and running because I'd love to have people call in. We have so many people watching live today. It's awesome. I love seeing so many people watching live. It's terrific. Should we move on to our cheers and jeers? Because we're just coming up on an hour, my friend.
Sure.
Okay.
How do we go an hour? Well, we kept the commissioner on. That's why.
I know. What do you have, my friend?
Okay. A cheer. I took my family this weekend. A cheer to Glens Falls in general, but the Adirondack Thunder specifically. Glens Falls supports its minor league hockey, has for decades. And if you've not gone to an Adirondack Thunder game, and there's not many left, and they've been selling out, so you better get on it quickly. What a hoot! It was. I love hockey, the sport. The place was packed. They had good price on beers on Saturday night. Shout out to Saratoga Eagle. They had a good price on Budweiser. What a fun time! My daughter is within one game. My daughter is an avid hockey fan now. She's watching the Sabres with me. She's watching the Thunder. Folks, give it a try. If not this year, next year, because it's the closest we have here to Saratoga to a professional team. So it was great. That's my cheer for the Adirondack Thunder and Glens Falls for supporting them. Let's give them some Saratoga love. I don't have a jeer. What I have is some sad news that a lot of you know. Wally Allardyce, the founder and owner of Allardyce Building Supply, the hardware stores in the Malta and Milton, the glass shop. I've used. Who hasn't used every one of those wonderful businesses where you just get treated fairly with a really competent, helpful staff? Wally, I knew him through UPH. We were on the board together. I didn't know him well, but I worked with him a fair amount there. What a wonderful man, so knowledgeable, so capable of doing so many things, not afraid to get his hands dirty. He did so much for UPH in the old days when they had no money. The Burke Funeral Home is handling his services. So for the specifics, go to the Burke Funeral Home website. I'm terribly sorry for the Allardyce family and his extended family and his business partners and really the whole Saratoga community.
So I also wanted to cheer someone who passed this week, who is Terry Lee. Some of you all might remember Terry Lee. She moved out of the city a couple years ago, but she was the head of the Saratoga Hospital Foundation for years and years and years. And her contributions to this community through Saratoga Hospital are too many to quantify. But her dream, her kind of final dream for Saratoga before she left here was to build the community health center. And she fundraised for it and was able to build it. And the Saratoga Community Health Center is really like none other. It treats people who are underinsured or who have no insurance, and it offers primary care, dental, vision, and mental health care. And it's just an unbelievable facility that we have right downtown on Hamilton Street. And that was really her vision, her dream, and it's been operational for many years now. And really, that's one of her many legacies here in Saratoga Springs. So she taught me so much about fundraising, so much about community, so much about what it's kind of expected of you to be a part of a community like this and what it means to give back. And so I just wanted to cheer Terry Lee for everything she meant to Saratoga Springs.
Well done, Robin.
Thank you. On that note, we're going to sign off. We will see you all next week with Adam. The trio will be back. Thank you for watching. And Dan, any final thoughts?
Folks, thanks for watching. Keep try to write in next week. We enjoy comments and everything else.
Yeah. All right. Over and out. Bye-bye, guys.